At the start of last year, I had laid out 10 different goals that I was looking to accomplish within 2024. Today, I'm very glad to come back, sit down, take a few moments to reflect back and share with you how I actually managed to accomplish some of those goals that I had set out to, and some of those goals were a bit of a failure. As important as goals are, I think equally as important is the process or time that we take to sit down, reflect, and look at what actually worked, what did not work, and to calibrate how we approach the upcoming year. This has been a process that I have practiced for many years, but I think this year what I want to do differently is to lay out the goals that I have for myself through this channel and try to stay accountable to them. What I'm hoping to do is that at the start of 2026, I'll be able to look back at this video and kind of share the progress that I made towards my goals this year, what had worked, what had not worked, and perhaps leave you with a bit of value on what you can do for yourself. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Aaron, and my vision on this channel kind of document the little lessons that I learned along the way, and also hopefully add some value to you in terms of how you can make your life possibly a little bit more productive, possibly a bit more fulfilling based on the lessons and also the mistakes that I have made in the past. So I hope that you find some value in this. So in this week's video, I'm doing a quick reflection on how this year has been for me. So let me first start by just sharing with you a quick outline of how 2024 went for me as a year in reference to the goals that I had set out to accomplish by the end of last year. Allow me to first share with you how I apportion all of the goals or kind of the plans that I have for myself for the year at the very start of the year. So usually when I set out my goals, I kind of apportion them into two different categories. I have a category of goals which I call my faith-based goals or my faith-based visions, and also another category of goals by which these are things that I want to work towards or improve, or things that I can practically work on. Faith-based goals are goals that I know that no matter how much effort I put in, no matter how hard I try, these are some things that I won't be able to accomplish on my own. These are just things that are way out of scope of something that I can kind of achieve on my own. So this has to be something that is a supernatural blessing. Well, I am a Christian, so I believe that these goals that I set out to as my faith-based visions are my act of showing to God that I trust that He has something in store for me for the year that is bigger than anything that I can ask or imagine. This is kind of based off for me on the scripture on Hebrews 11 verse 6, where the scripture kind of says that without faith it is impossible to please God. So I just kind of take that for myself in a sense where to please God I need to have some faith, and to have faith means that I have to believe in something that I can't just achieve on my own. So the three faith-based goals that I had, the first one was in the area of my health, which is to get into a 10% body fat state. Clearly, if you look at me now, I have not reached that 10% body fat state yet. The second goal was more in the area of my career. So in the area of my career, I broke that goal down into wanting to be promoted in my current full-time job scope at McDonald's. And number two, which is on the way I see my career as a creator on YouTube, I wanted to kind of achieve like that 1,000 subscriber mark. Third goal that I had set out for myself is to purchase a new home. So those were my three faith-based goals, and I was thinking about the fact that no matter how hard I try and systemize trying to lose some body fat, getting into a 10% body fat state is something that is really, really hard to accomplish. This is like bodybuilders getting on stage level, right? So I just told God, hey, I'm gonna need a bit of your this is not something that I can accomplish on my own. Secondly, in terms of my career, at the start of last year I had 100 subscribers on this channel. So wanting to scale that by 10x in a year, I didn't know if it was something that I could do on my own, so I considered that a faith-based goal, on top of the fact that to get promoted in my career. So I was working as a marketing manager at McDonald's. Generally, the lifespan or to get promoted or to grow within that organization, it looked like it's something that would take quite a bit of time. So to get promoted within 2.5 years, if I consider the entire 2024, would have been something that was impossible for me. And to set out to buy a new house in Mont Kiara at the time, at the start of 2024, we still had our home in Puchong, which we just bought, we renovated, and we just rented it out. And to try and financially figure out how I'm going to buy a house in Mont Kiara was something that was out of the realm of possibility for me. So these were the 3 faith-based goals. And what I would do is I would incorporate my faith-based goals into the general goals that I wanted to accomplish in the year. These were the 10 overall goals that I wanted to accomplish, including my faith-based goals, and this was what made up my vision board for 2024. So starting in the area of my health, the first goal was to kind of get into that 10% body fat. The second goal was to try and grow by 7 centimeters tall. So I've always had this vision of wanting to be like in the 6'1", 6'2" range. So I just told God, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't think if that's even possible. I'm 33 now, but if possible, I wanted to grow by another 7 centimeters. The third goal was to really master my sexual impulses. I think as a man, we have our sexual impulses. Whether you're married, whether you're single, it's a strong area of our life. So I wanted to really become in control of my sexual impulses and really master learning how to transmute this sexual energy. The fourth area was to have boundless energy, and how I kind of narrowed that into a very specific goal is to set a certain number on my testosterone level. So learning how to eat, rest, train, play, and live a life that is on a high testosterone level, so that my energy levels were boundless. In terms of my career, it's also incorporated into my faith-based goals, which I wanted to number 1, get promoted in my workplace, and number 2, gain 1,000 subscribers on this channel. I also had my material goals, right? So these are just areas that I things that I wanted to purchase, wanted to own for the year. So one of those things was to get like a proper camera setup for my YouTube channel. So my style was, I think I was going to be doing a bit more vlogs, a bit more talking head stuff. So I thought like something like a Sony ZV-E1 would be a great option for me. Next, I also wanted to get a new kind of MacBook setup for my editing. I think a couple of years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, when I first put on my vision board that I wanted to get Chery Swiss watch. At the moment, I have the Tissot PRX. I think you should be able to see it here. So this was the first Swiss watch that I got, but this is a quartz movement. I wanted to get something that was an automatic movement and something above the 10k mark, just to kind of reach a certain financial milestone to be able to afford that. Aside from those two material goals, I think the third thing in terms of wealth, I wanted to have like a 12-month runway in savings. So if anything were to happen, we will have enough to last us for 12 months. Aside from that, I think 2 other goals that I had was in the area of knowledge. I wanted to be able to speak French fluently. Je parle français. I've been taking lessons on Duolingo, and I wanted to complete my French entire course, and I also wanted to become a lot more proficient in Excel. At a very high level, the 10 different goals that I had set up for the year. So in context to the goals that I had set up for the year, I'm very happy to share that I actually accomplished 5 of these goals. So number 1, by God's grace, I actually did get promoted at work. I was recently, just in December, promoted from marketing manager to senior marketing manager at McDonald's. Number 2 is part of the impossible goals, right? We're actually in the midst of closing in on the purchase of our second home. There's a whole story there about how we managed to sell our first home in the midst of a very dry market. Again, another testimony there, but very happy to share that we're in the midst of closing in, and our second home is actually in Mont Kiara. Thirdly, I did manage to get a YouTube camera for myself, and I'm so happy to have gone with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I think that just kind of works well with my style, with a bit more vlogging, and even gives me like great quality on my talking head stuff. So I managed to get a brand new DJI Osmo Pocket 3. On top of that, get my MacBook Air M2 as well. So I just made that purchase at the start of the year. We were financially at a place where I could afford it, on top of the fact that I got 1,000 ringgit off for the MacBook Air M2. That was exactly what I had on my vision board, as you can see over here. So I'm so happy about how that came into play. Last but not least, this one was just pretty crazy to me, right? At the very last day of the year, on 31st of December, we were at a certain place financially, but me growing up poor, I just couldn't bring myself, to make a purchase of a luxury watch. We were at One Utama. We walked into one of the watch boutiques there, and I just kind of said, okay, let me just go in and take a look, right? If I was willing to bring myself to do it. I was surveying for the past month or so. As soon as I got news of my promotion, I was thinking, like, just as a milestone, this is probably something that I want to do for myself. And there was an amazing deal on one of the watches that I was looking at, and I'm so thankful that I actually managed to clinch a Longines Conquest automatic at 38mm. This is one of the most talked about watches. I had a Tudor 1926 and also a Longines Conquest that was just up and up with each other. Was deciding between the two, and I'm so glad that I actually managed to get the Longines as well. So as you can see here, this is like truly a dream come true for me, and all of it came true in 2024. So with that said, I think I just want to take a few minutes to reflect back on what actually helped me get to this place that I was going to in 2024. What were some of the bigger lessons that I learned, and how these lessons actually helped propel me, and perhaps it could possibly add some value to you as well. So I think the number one most important thing that set last year apart for me in comparison to many years is just having a vision. So as I look back on 2024, one of the biggest learnings that I have is that I'm so thankful that I started off the year with a very clear vision. So the Bible says that without vision, the people perish. And I took that as literal as possible for me, and I'm so thankful that at the start of 2024 I sat down, I was very clear about how I envisioned the end of 2024 to look like for me. And whilst not every one of my goals, the vision that I had, not every single one of it came true, compared to many other years, a lot of what I had set out to do, I had actually accomplished. And the simple fact that I had a very clear vision at the start of the year influenced a lot of my decision making throughout the year. So I think that's one of the biggest benefits of kind of setting out your goals or having a vision of where you want to go for the rest of the year. Having that vision, most importantly, in the little decisions that you make on a daily basis, it affects you, and all those small decisions are what actually compounds into the big thing or the big goal that you have set up for the year coming into fruition. So I think that's amazing. I think this is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. This is something that I'm going to take with me into 2025 as well. I think the second biggest lesson that I learned in 2024 is the importance of understanding the difference between an input and an output. Give you a simple example, right? One of my fate visions was to get promoted. Getting promoted is not something that I can control. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of factors that go into decision making whether or not you get promoted or whether or not I get promoted in my role. Perhaps you work in sales and those factors are maybe streamlined a lot more. It just comes down to the numbers, right? But for me, for someone in marketing, there's a lot of different factors that go into deciding if somebody gets promoted, on top of the fact that in my organization, we have many people that serve for many years before even getting promoted. So to me, getting promoted was an output. It wasn't something that I could control. What I could control though is what I defined as an input, and these inputs were the little things that I could do every day. For example, showing up to work on time, always giving more than what is required, knowing that the quality of my work reflects onto me, my God. If I say that I'm a Christian or I'm a believer and this is the way that I live my life, it has to reflect in my day-to-day work, and not just something that I speak about or not just something that I wear on my tattoos or talk about. And learning that becoming promoted is an output from all the different input that I put in on a daily basis kind of completely changed the paradigm for me. So I was no longer looking at this big end goal of getting promoted, but for me it was in the day-to-day effect, the way that I treated people, the way that I treated my work, the way I make sure that it's the small things, the quality of the small things that I was working on. At the same way, this was also something that I took into my health and my athleticism, and it's something that I really learned from my friend Leonard. So we go on our Saturday long runs. We do about 15-20 kilometers almost every other Saturday in 2024, and what we learned from this process is being able to perform on those long runs are a result, or those are considered our output. Our input actually comes from the day-to-day training that we put in. So for example, for me, I do a 5k every day in that zone 2 range. For him, he does obviously at a much higher level than I do, but being able to perform on a half marathon race or in a race is really a reflection of the work that we had already put in on a day-to-day basis, and that is the input. So I think that this was one of the biggest lessons that I learned in 2024 in going on a journey to accomplish a goal and understanding the difference between an input and output. I think the third biggest learning in being able to accomplish or reach towards the goals that I set out in 2024 is finding the right people. This one's going to be a bit tough because for me in 2024 it was more about removing the wrong people. So this will be a little bit honest with you, right? In 2023 I actually went through a journey where I believe God removed a lot of negative people from my life, and it's going to be hard to say, but these people were actually my own relatives. Is that many times when we sat down for conversations, a lot of those conversations were very negatively skewed, or a lot of those conversations were gossips, or a lot of times we spent a lot of time as a family just muttering around the same issues and we were just wallowing in it. And all that came to an end when at the start of 2023 the guns were kind of turned at me. I became the person that was on the wrong, and I think that was really what was needed to wake me up, that actually I was telling myself a lot of bullshit. I was trying to lie to myself, and I think even my wife kind of saw through it, that I was really being taken advantage of, for lack of better words, but I just didn't want to admit it to myself. But I really thank God that because of the removal of the wrong people, I really had like a very clear path of going forward, like especially I think in the area of my work. There were so many times I think in 2023 when I just was starting to gain momentum at my work, one issue or another would come up at home and I would get random calls throughout the workday, which I had to kind of go and deal with my mother and her bullshit emotions. Thank God that was completely removed out of my life. So to kind of bring these 3 points to a close, I think those 3 key things that I learned in 2024 in setting out and accomplishing my goals is: number 1, really having a very clear vision of where I wanted to head to. Number 2 is learning the difference between input and output. I'll probably go into another video about putting systems in place and being able to know that we are really only in control of our inputs, and all of the results are part of our outputs. Maybe we get what we want, maybe we even get even more than what we want. So I think that was the second biggest lesson. And the third biggest lesson is the importance of people. When those wrong people get removed from your life, somehow the right people start coming in. And when you have a vision, you kind of already decide the kind of people that you want in your circle, the kind of people that you want within your locus of influence, and the kind of people that you don't want, because if not, you will just be accepting everybody, right? So I think those were the 3 biggest lessons. And going into 2025, I think how I'm going to be setting up some of my goals differently is I'm going to be putting a lot more emphasis on the input versus looking solely at the output. For example, my weight loss goal, or my goal of trying to get into like that 65 kg range, which is about 20 kilos from where I am today. Today I'm about 85 kilos. Of course, this has already been a long journey, right? I've come down from 120 kilos, but losing this next 20 kgs will be a lot more about actionable, controllable inputs from my end. So for example, it is about having 2 workouts a day and being consistent and tracking those 2 workouts a day. So I think that is one of the key action plans that I'm going to be taking place, and not trying to rush the process. So if in the first 12 weeks, I think I'm going to try and drop 5 kilos, and more so, I'm not going to be focusing on just those 5 kilos, but focusing on the systems that would get me to that 5 kilos. Secondly is really being honest with my tracking. So I think in the area of mastering my sexual energy, I think this is where I'm going to be very honest with myself and journal or identify what are my triggers and what are ways that on a daily basis I can try and avoid those triggers so I don't get tempted unnecessarily. And last but not least, for example, with my journey on YouTube, I think last year the goal that I set out to accomplish is to try and get to 1,000 subscribers. But this year I'm going to change that goal to something not of an output, but something to be more of an input. So for myself, I'm aiming to put out 1 video a week, long form, and about 1 short video a day across all 3 social media platforms. So that will be the goals I'm going to be setting out for this year. So I think those are the key lessons of what I've learned in 2024 and how I'm going to be setting up my goals differently for 2025. So in conclusion, I trust that 2024 had really been one of the best years for me. And these were the reasons why last year was truly an amazing year. In next week's video, I'm very excited because I'm going to be bringing you and sharing with you my vision board for 2025 and what are the things I want to accomplish. If you can take a look just at the side there, that is the vision board that I put up for 2024, as well as my lifetime vision board on the things that I want to see happen in this lifetime before I die. I hope you've derived some value from this video. I'm going to be a lot more consistent in uploading to this channel. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe to this channel, but if you find there is some value here, do consider subscribing. I will catch you next week. Thank you so much. Have a great week ahead.